A week after UFC 261, the new pound-for-pound rankings for the men's division were released. The current top five is Francis Ngannou at number 5, Israel Adesanya at number 4, Alexander Volkanovski at number 3, Kamaru Usman at number 2, and John Jones at number 1.
With the new pound-for-pound list out, there's always a controversy as to who made the number 1 spot and to why they made it. Here's me and Kevin on our picks as to who we think made the top 5 list this time and why.
Five pound-for-pound rankings for the UFC men's division. Number 5, I'm going to start with Alexander Volkanovski. He's still undefeated in the UFC, even though I think it's 1-1 between him and Holloway. He did outstrike him in both those fights, though. He hasn't fought in 20 months and since the COVID rescheduling, but deserves one of those spots after holding the gold. Number 4, I have in Francis Ngannou. He's a new heavyweight champion, can truly become the greatest heavyweight of all time. A new resume of candidates such as John Jones, Ciryl Gane, and able to redeem a loss against Derek Lewis makes him my number 4 spot for me, because very high ceiling with him and just insane potential. Number 3, I have Israel Adesanya. Still after his loss to Jan, so remains undefeated in the middleweight division. He easily has cruised through every other contender that they've thrown him in the middleweight division. He has a very high ceiling and easily another shot at becoming a 2-division champion. Number 2, I have Kamaru Usman. Undefeated in the UFC still, has improved each time he has fought. No real prospects even stand in the way for the welterweight division. So I think just with how much he's improving, he could easily get to a number 1 spot eventually. But that's why I have my man John Jones here at number 1, undisputed pound for pound. No real trouble in the ring recently or in his entire career. Recently moved to heavyweight, so that's going to be very interesting to see how it's all going to play out with Francis Ngannou, 2 top 5s battling each other. His only 2 losses coming from a failed drug test against DC, making it a no contest, and then a DQ at the Ultimate Fighter finale, outstriking his opponent 44-5 in the first round. Truly is the greatest and the number 1 guy for me.
Starting off my list for the top 5 pound-for-pound fighters, I have Francis Ngannou at number 5. He's without a doubt the scariest man on the planet and has shown time and time again that he's known to be played with because he will sleep you. In his last fight against Stipe Miocic, we saw his wrestling immensely improve, which had a huge factor in him winning that fight. Now with him sitting as the heavyweight champion, he has a plethora of fighters he can go against, such as Ciryl Gane, Derek Lewis, or even John Jones for a super fight. It'll be interesting to see what he does next. At number 4, we have Dustin Poirier, who currently sits at number 1 in the lightweight division and has shown over the past couple years that he is a top boxer and grappler in that division. Constantly slept on and shown as an underdog, he beat Conor McGregor by being the first person to ever knock him out. And if it wasn't for Poirier wanting to fight McGregor again in July and trying to chase the big money fight, there's no doubt he would be fighting Charles Oliveira in May for the lightweight belt. At number 3, I have Israel Adesanya. Although he lost his last fight at the light heavyweight division, trying to fight Jan Blachowicz for the double belt championship, he is still undefeated in the middleweight division, and his striking is second to none. He's fought a who's who in the middleweight division, such as Kelvin Gastelum, Paulo Costa, Anderson Silva, Robert Whittaker, and he's beaten them all. His next fight is going to be against Martin Vettori, where he's going to defend his belt again. Vettori is somebody who he has fought in the past, and this is going to be an interesting rematch. At number 2, I have Kamaru Usman. We've all seen what he's done, especially at UFC 261 when he slept Jorge Masvidal. He's currently undefeated, and he's on an 18-fight win streak. He's been the champ of the welterweight division since 2019 with defenses over Colby, Covington, Gilbert Burns, and now this was his second defense over Masvidal. With his last win, he makes a huge case to be the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter and is on his way to becoming the welterweight GOAT and potentially could be the UFC GOAT one day. But at number 1, I have John Jones. the most dominant champion the UFC has ever seen. He's been champion since 2011, and time after time, he's proven that he is the most dominant light heavyweight fighter on the planet. His only loss is from a disqualification that came back in 2009 from an illegal elbow. If this elbow didn't happen, he'd be undefeated, but still, John Jones is arguably the GOAT. The only thing that could keep him from possibly being number one in a lot of other potential rankings, in my opinion, is that he's been active. He hasn't fought since January of 2020, so it's been a long time. Those are my top 5.